It's another stormy weekend, so we're back for part 2 of the Outback Fury crawler rebuild. Now, last time we got to the stage of stripping it all down, cleaning it up, and we took the gearbox apart because of the weird gearbox noise, totally cleaned that, re-greased it, put it back together. So we got a few more parts that turned up in the post this week. Got a metal rear bumper mount for when I plan to bobtail the rear of the chassis. I'm going to cut it off about there. Anything from that point backwards just holds the bumper anyway, but I want less overhang. I want the tyre to be the rearmost point of the vehicle. We've then got a little crown gear there, which I'll explain in a minute, or pinion gear even. These little collets, a new spur gear because that got chewed up when the motor went wrong, and another motor to put in a stockpile, 35 turn axial, because that just seems to be our Achilles heel at the moment. We want all kinds of funky motors. This old trusty HPI has done the best by a long way. So, we're going to start off with the front axle. So the front axle was occasionally making a bit of a squeak under really high load situations. And what I found when I took it apart, it all seems to move freely. But that's where your prop shaft goes onto. And there is supposed to be one of these little collets on there. So I bought a pack of more and it was missing, and what that does, it sits down onto the input shaft there so that when you put the prop shaft on, it sits nice and tight, and that can't move back and forth, because you see, you can't really see because my chubby fingers, but that's got play back and forth. So what may have happened is that's been moving back and forth, and then that pinion gear inside hasn't been making good contact with the ring gear, or the crown gear I think it's called. So I'm going to strip that down, we'll have a look. Potentially there's some damage to the gears in there while this has been allowed to move. If not, great, we'll put it back together. If so, we'll replace that. So let's strip it down. It's going to be a greasy old mess, and we'll have a look at what's going on. Okay, so that's the front axle stripped down to its sort of component parts. We clean it all up. Obviously we got the bearings, where the steering attaches there, and everything, all the hub section attaches. This is just the hollow casing. That's the gear that we need to look at that's potentially had the play, and also where it contacts there with the crown gear. So we get all this cleaned up, and we'll have a proper check out of all the bearings, see it they're free, have a look at the gears and whether we need to replace it with the bits we bought. So yeah, let's get on with the dirty bit. Okay, so she's stripped down and cleaned up. The gears actually look fine. There's nothing wrong with those, no weird wear or anything like that. So I'm happy with that. All I found is, upon checking all the bearings, we had a couple of the smaller ones seized up. I got loads of those. And then you've got these larger bearings that fit onto the drive gear there. Now one of those was seized and one wasn't very good. I only had one in stock, so I've ordered some more. I don't want to rebuild without them, but luckily when I went into my box of spares, we got this arm from one of our FTX Comet builds, and although it looks grubby, these have never been run in the wet and they've got the right size bearing in the hub. So we're going to take those out, replace the bearings. What else do we need to do? Oh yeah, the front CVDs, so a universal joint rather than the drive sort of cup these come with. These are still fine, moving freely, no grip, but we'll give those a good clean down and get some oil into there. And then, man, this won't focus. And then grease it all up. I use a ridiculous amount of grease, but we do a ridiculous amount of water crossings. So yeah, rebuild time, let's crack on. one shiny rebuilt front axle. Turns out it was all okay, just some seized bearings, so nice new rubber sealed bearings now in there. So we're going to attach that back onto the chassis, and I'm going to try these Chinesium coronavirus specials. As far as prop shafts go, they seem quite free moving. The only thing I'm not keen on is those little E-clips there, because if they come off, this is all going to fall apart. But they're cheap, they're cheerful, and they're worth a try. I'm actually waiting for another set of these FTX upgrade alloy shocks. They're about a week late and the Royal Mail tracking's not working, so no fault of the seller, but they seem to be lost. So we're hang that back on, but I'm not going to put the plastic shocks back on. I'm going to be patient, which I struggle with, and wait for those. But yeah, nicely rebuilt, nicely watertight, all free moving, happy days. Okay, so that's going to be it for today. We got the Chinesium prop installed in there, spinning away. We got the rebuilt axle, as you can see, nice rubber shielded bearings there, all reconnected with the steering links and the 4-link setup and all of that, ready for wheels. Next steps will be to repeat the process with the rear axle, which will be exactly the same, so won't be worth filming. Then we can clean that up and put the gears back on the motor. And then it's going to be a case of I want to adjust the chassis. Now there's something turning up tomorrow as well, which should hopefully sort of bring this build together. But yeah, the chassis is going to get cut about there. So stay tuned, it's all progress. And hopefully there's some little tips that could be useful if you're building one of these. So yeah, until next time.